Morning, all of you. It's such a wonderful occasion for me that I have got this opportunity to be in the midst of all of you today. And I know that you have been pursuing yoga for a long time, and it's such a noble practice that you have adopted and inculcated, and then following it religiously with great amount of discipline every day. Sarika invited me to talk about spirituality. I'm going to share some of my perspectives. I am not an expert in this area. I'm a learner, as Sarika mentioned. My learning in this space has been inspired by my spiritual guide, Sri Sri Thakur Anukul Chandra. So whatever learnings I have, I would like to share some of that in the next few minutes. It is interesting when we talk about spirituality. But before that, I think the theme that we have today for our discussion is awareness through spirituality. So, a few questions that come to our mind when we contemplate about who I am, what is the purpose of my life, why I am here, why do I have a life in the first place, what I'm going to do, and so on. These questions have intrigued man since times immemorial. The seekers have continued to pursue answers to these questions, but majority of us have decided to move on because our so-called education has not helped us find answers to these questions. So science has taught us how life came into existence. It says about 13.8 billion years ago, the universe was created. 4.5 billion years ago, the earth was created. About 3.7 billion years ago, the first life form came into existence on the earth in the form of a microorganism. And it also teaches us how from that evolution started and how human beings came into existence. So it teaches us how the universe was created, how life came into existence, but it never teaches us why life came into existence. It doesn't tell us what is the purpose of our life, what's the mission of our life. It doesn't teach us why life was created in the first place, why something was created as opposed to nothing. And that's where science stops and spirituality begins. So many a times we believe spirituality is about devotion, is about dedication to God, etc. It's more devotional and less logical. But I would slightly differ on that. Actually, spirituality is highly logical. It explains what science cannot explain. It explains what education cannot explain, or what education has not explained to us. So, spirituality, when we look at spirituality, a very profound definition of spirituality is the ideas and activities that lead man to the cause is spiritualism. So those ideas and activities, those thoughts, ideas and activities lead man to the cause. They constitute spiritualism. So essentially, spirituality takes us to the cause. So if you talk about spirit and matter, the word spirit is embedded into the word spirituality. When you talk about spirit and matter, one thing that we know very clearly, that spirit and matter are two stages of the same continuum. Like we have the water vapor, we have water, we have ice, different stages of the same, of the same continuum. They're not different from each other, Similarly, the spiritual world and material world are not different from each other. It's just a continuum it's just different stages of the same continuum. So, when we talk about, so what we can see is a material world. What what we cannot see, but from which everything has evolved, the material world has evolved, is the spiritual world, which we can't see, which we can't conceive, which we can't visualize or imagine. But everything has evolved from that. The moment we try to dive deep into that world, understand that world better, then things become clearer. Everything becomes more visible. Everything becomes more apparent. All we need to do is we need to dive into that world, because that's the cause of the material world. Behind the gross, there is the fine. Behind the fine, there is the finer. Behind the finer, there are the finest elements. So, behind the material world, there is a finer and the finest world, the spiritual world, where things are probably finer, but they are the cause of everything that we see. So when we are spiritually inclined, it's like understanding the cause of our life, how life was created, why it was created, why I came into this earth, what is my mission. So it's like embarking on a train journey from Bangalore to Delhi, and you know that your destination is defined. Your origin is known to you, or destination is very clearly defined to you. But along the journey, when there is a railway station, you get down and then buy some newspapers or magazines, or buy some fruits. Or in the train, when you feel hungry, you walk to the pantry car and then you buy some food items. You meet your co-passengers and then you talk to them. But deep inside, you know that you have an objective of the journey. You have a purpose. And buying vegetables, buying magazines or newspapers is not your purpose. Talking to your co-passengers is not your purpose. Going to the pantry car and then buying some food is not your purpose. Your purpose is reaching Delhi. That's what you know. But along the journey, you do many things. But that's not your purpose. But sometimes you get into fights with the newspaper vendor because he's charging a little extra. We get into a fight with the pantry car guy, and so on. Or we behave nicely with them, or we behave nicely with our co-passengers. But deep inside, we know that it's not our purpose. So similarly, along the journey of our life, we have a family, we pick up a job, we get associated with many things, but we know that we have a larger purpose. And spirituality teaches us not to associate ourselves with any of these things, not to attach ourselves with any of these things, but perform our duties in them efficiently. So while my job, my purpose is not to engage in a dialogue with my co-passengers, but my duty is to be nice to them and humble to them. While my purpose is not to buy newspapers or magazines, but my duty is to pay a fair price and then be nice and humble. So while I pick up a job, that's not the purpose of my life, but that's a duty that I need to play very efficiently without being attached. So that's what spirituality teaches us. And so that's why we never get attached. So we don't get attached to positions and titles. So very clearly, I requested Sarika, don't introduce me as your friend, as your colleague, but not as anything else, because I am not in any of these things. My position, my title, my qualification, all that don't represent me. I pick up them along the journey, along the way, but they don't belong to me. The position doesn't belong to me. It was with somebody. It is with me today. It'll be with somebody else tomorrow. So spirituality teaches us how not to get attached. But does spirituality teach us to be detached? No. It doesn't teach us to be detached. We still need to be we still need to be in the midst of everything, perform our duties efficiently, and deep inside we know that our larger purpose is something else. It's like the person who is playing the role of a king in the play knows that he is not a king. The person who's playing the role of a thief in the play knows that he is not a thief. A person who is playing the role of a mad person knows that he's not a mad fellow. But the moment we start attaching ourselves to the roles that we perform, then problem starts. The moment an actor who playing the role of a mad person starts believing that he is a mad person, imagine what can happen on stage. So that's what happens in our real life when we start thinking that we are our position, we are our title. I'm the father of so and so, I'm the husband of so and so, I hold this title in this company, I hold so much this degree and qualification. I am, so and so in my locality. When we associate our identity with all of this, then problem starts. But the person who plays the role of a mad person plays it so efficiently that people think he is a mad person. The person who plays the role of a king so efficiently, people think he's actually is a king. So we'll have to perform our duties very, very efficiently and effectively, deep inside knowing that we are not attached to any of this. We don't associate our identity with any of this. Our purpose is to reach Delhi. Our purpose is not to buy newspapers, magazines, buy food from the pantry car, but we do all of this along the journey, and we need to do all of this along the journey. That's what spirituality teaches us. Spirituality helps us gain control over our mind. The moment we learn how not to attach and associate ourselves with any of this, so-called material things, while living in a material world, we know how to gain control over our mind. We know how to gain control over ourselves. And the difference between a wise man and an educated man is the same. Educated man has information, but wise man has wisdom. And that's the fundamental difference. Educated man knows that it is not correct to jump a traffic signal, but he still does it. Right? If you look at the statistics if you look at the crime statistics, you will find 80% of criminals today are so-called educated people. But a wise man knows that it is wrong to jump a signal, but he or she also knows that he or she also has inculcated that into his her behavior and character. That's the difference between an educated man and wise man. That's why today we see drug addiction, we see suicides, we see celebrities committing suicide. They're educated people. We see business tycoons committing suicide. We see the divorce rates going up in families. We see marriage breakdown. We see nervous breakdown. We see families getting destroyed. We see young people getting addicted to drugs. The so-called educated people, but they don't have control over their mind. They've lost control over and mind is such a thing which always pulls us down. So that's why spirituality helps us to gain control over mind, to gain control over our attachments. For that, we need a higher level of attachment. And that attachment is with a higher ideal in life. And that's important. I know that we have time is very limited. But what I want to tell you is that in the midst of all the stress, anxieties, frustrations that we have in our life, which are imbalancing factors, which is trying to imbalance our life, we need to attach to a balancing factor, which can balance our life, which can make us remain calm and composed in the midst of all the trials and tribulations. So happiness is not necessarily a quiet state of mind. Happiness is a balanced state of mind. That balance, when we find that balance, a balance which keeps us steady and firm in both extreme states. When there are moments of happiness, we're still calm and composed. When there are moments of frustration and distress and suffering and sorrows, still calm and composed. That's the balanced state in life. And when people lose that balance, no matter how educated they are, how much of information and knowledge they have, they're not necessarily wise and they make mistakes. Either they commit suicide, they take wrong decisions, there are family breakdowns, and so on. But people who have found that balance remains firm. And people who are spiritually inclined, who believe that I am the creation of the creature, I'm the creation of the creator. Creator has infinite power and strength. He is the source of strength. We get immense strength within ourselves. Just by thinking that you are from the creator, you gain immense amount of strength. And that strength gives us the balance. That balance comes from the balancing factor in life. That balancing factor, what I have learned from my spiritual guide, is a guide in our life, a living guide who is the living embodiment of this wisdom, of this purpose. And all of you are learning yoga. Just to learn yoga, you need a yoga teacher. To learn mathematics, you learn a mathematics teacher. To learn music, you learn a music teacher. But when you have to learn life skills, don't we need a life teacher? Don't we need a spiritual guide? I think all of us need a spiritual guide who can actually teach us how to take this path. And mere attachment, love, and admiration towards that living guide will bring us back whenever a mind takes us, because of our distractions, our mind goes astray. Our attachment towards our living ideal will bring us back. If you are very highly attached to your mother or father, you will not do anything that they don't want you to do because you truly love them. Similarly, when you truly love your living ideal, you will never want to do something what will make him feel sad. So I think as I have started my spiritual journey at a very beginning stage, these are some of the perspectives I wanted to share with you, and I would like to wish you all the very best in your life. Thank you very much, Sarika, for giving me